Dear participants from Belgium and Hungary, welcome today to today's presentation on sustainable development. Let me introduce myself. I am Edith Franki, the Export and Investment Counselor representing two regions of Belgium, Wallonia and the Brussels Capital Region in Hungary. My Belgian agency's goal is to build up further businesses and scientific contacts between Belgium and Hungary. We are convinced that arousing interest in both parties would be a common asset. Let me welcome our first speaker, Dr. Peter Kaderják, President of Zero Carbon Hub of the Budapest University of Technology and Economics. Mr. Kaderják is a main player in sustainable development issues, well present recently at the Hungarian Battery Day on the 30th of September, then in October at the conference of the Budapest Climate Summit, as well as last week at the Planet 2021 Sustainability Expo and Summit in Budapest. Today, Mr. Kaderják is mainly concerned with the design and implementation of policies, programs, research, and education, promoting Hungary's climate neutrality with the aim of achieving it by 2050. May I give you the floor to give your presentation, Mr. Kaderják?
Dear Edith, dear colleagues, thank you very much for this opportunity to meet you today and share some of my views with you on Hungary's future towards climate neutrality by 2050. So I put together a small presentation, and if I may, I just try to share it with you through the screen. So just a moment. I wonder whether you can see the presentation now.
You can see.
All right. So in the coming minutes, what I would like to do is really to share with you recent policy and project developments in Hungary that are related the country's policy towards climate neutrality by 2050. Personally, I just would like to mention to you that in the last 2.5 years, as former State Secretary for Energy and Climate Policy, I took part quite actively in putting together that policy package that today serves as the basis for an integrated energy and climate policy for Hungary. Now, let me start with very quickly introduce to you into the main pillars of the Hungarian integrated energy and climate strategy, reflect a little bit on some of the key components of that, and then focus the rest of the speech and the presentation on the climate-friendly transition of the energy sector. So I will talk more about climate and energy and maybe less on other aspects of sustainability that other colleagues participating today's meeting might add more later on. The most recent energy and climate strategy of Hungary was accepted and passed by the government early last year. And it puts into the focus of the strategy to provide clean, smart, and affordable energy services for large and small consumers of energy services here in the country. And the four main pillars of that very general framework are indicated on this slide. First, saying that it is the consumer who is in the center in this strategy. The other major pillar for the strategy is strengthening Hungary's energy supply security, which is quite a traditional energy policy objective usually. The third major pillar is to go for a climate-friendly transition of the energy sector. This will take the rest of my presentation, very much connected to the fourth pillar, which is promoting innovation and economic development, which are, to our understanding, are twin issues. So we want to promote a climate-friendly transition so that the country can take part in the innovation process that is needed to support that climate-friendly transition. Now, as part of this very general strategy, about 40 concrete projects are listed in the strategy, the implementation of which started in the country in order to meet those very general strategic objectives. Now, I would just like to very briefly reflect on affordability and supply security, and then I immediately turn to the climate issue. Now, affordability is still an issue for Hungarian people and Hungarian consumers, and usually you wish to provide your consumers with relatively competitively priced energy services. I think in the country, what is created is a quite proper mix of competition, especially on the wholesale level of electricity and the gas sector, and also regulation, which means in the Hungarian context that household consumers and small businesses still have the choice of purchasing electricity and natural gas at regulated prices, so-called universal service prices. And I just brought to you the most recent comparison of EU countries with regard to average electricity prices for household consumers and non-household consumers in the first half of 2021. And where the arrows indicate that's the position of Hungary on this list, which means that in both household and non-household consumer cases, electricity prices are relatively competitively priced for our electricity consumers. This is the same figure for the natural gas sector, also indicating that regarding natural gas, Hungarian consumers, both household and industrial, at least in the first half of 2021, got these services at a relatively competitive price, comparing the EU, comparing to the EU peers in this regard. I don't want to go much into the detail how this is achieved, but in case you might have questions later, I'm very happy to come into more details. Next pillar, as I mentioned, is supply security for Hungary, and now we are in the middle, also in the EU context, of a very serious energy price crisis, I would say, which is also connected to the gas market developments. I have to say that in the last 2 decades for Hungary, energy supply security concerns have mostly been concentrated on the natural gas sector. Hungary uses about 10 billion cubic meters of gas per year, and which adds up to about 1/3 of our primary energy use. So a relative share of natural gas is high in our energy, primary energy consumption, although we are not big producers. So much effort has been put on creating sufficient infrastructure for natural gas in the country, creating potential diversity for supplying the required import quantities to the country, diversity in routes and also in sources to provide the necessary amounts of gas. Today, so at the moment, I think, and by today, Hungary is a fairly diversified gas consumer country, having interconnections essentially with all except one of our neighbors, supplied from at least 4 sources of natural gas, having long-term contracts for liquefied natural gas also, although we don't have a coast, but with Shell, we have a contract on LNG. And also more recently, the state-owned company entered into a 15 years long contract, a new long-term contract with Gazprom, also on pipeline gas. So I just wanted to put this one slide on this into this presentation, just to indicate that climate and climate-friendly transition is a very important component of our integrated energy and climate policy. But the 2 other major pillars of policy, namely providing affordable, competitive prices to consumers, and also provide for energy supply security for the country running into the coming winter, for example, are also critical issues for energy policy in the country. So this is what I just wanted to explain, you know, just indicating the decoupling of economic growth, which is on a 1990 basis is 64% plus, and greenhouse gas emissions reductions minus 32% in the last 30 years. And per capita greenhouse gas emission of the country is also among the lowest within the EU. So this is the past, and based on that past performance, the Hungarian policies defined the midterm and the long-term integrated energy and climate objectives for the country. This is what you see to be depicted here. For 2030, the still official objective is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030 on a 1990 basis. The share of renewables in final energy consumption should increase up to 21% compared to the current 12.5% increase. And in energy efficiency, the objective is kind of keeping a 2005 level of final energy use of 785 petajoules for the country, despite of economic growth forecasted for the country. Now, please note that this relatively low renewables share is coupled with the use of nuclear energy in the country. So in terms of decarbonization, renewables and nuclear is a mix that Hungary is opted for. Of course, this is very different in different European countries, but Hungary is a pro-nuclear country in that regard. Now, by 2050, the country last year put into national law that Hungary is on track towards climate neutrality by 2050, which in our case means about 95% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions based on a 90 level, which is about 100 million tons, because the sinks provide about 4 or 5% of these emissions, so about 5 million tons can be taken by things. Now, these mid and long-term objectives are under review because of the Fit for 55 package, but new official 2030 targets are not yet defined by the government.
Peter, can everybody see what I'm seeing? Everybody sees your presentation?
Yes, yes, I do.
Everybody sees that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for interrupting. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So that's the official objectives. And what I would like to present next is the result of a study, because once the government made a decision on the 2050 net zero target, of course, the question came, right, but how can we reach that? And the Ministry for Innovation and Technology, together with consultants, carried out a study with a fairly solid quantitative and modeling analysis on certain scenarios that could support Hungary's transition from now in 3 decades down to net zero. And this is summed up in our National Clean Development Strategy up to 2050, which is also available on the homepage that is indicated on this slide. And the figure, what it indicates, that we investigated 3 major scenarios. The one is business as usual one, meaning that we don't do much in the coming decades to meet net zero. What we have today, we just continue. And then early action and delayed action. The first scenario, meaning a more ambitious move towards 2050, and delayed action is a less ambitious, saying that we first should wait until new technologies are there in a massive and cheap amount, and then maybe at around the end of this coming 3 decades, Hungary should go for applying these technologies and reach 2050 by them a little bit later on. Now, from the big analysis that is included in the study and detailed in the study, what comes out is that first, and this is very important, it turns out that the social benefit cost balance for those scenarios indicate that early action could bring the highest net societal benefits for the country. So that's the highest payoff scenario from the 3 indicated scenarios in this study. So I will, that's the good track, if I would say, because that brings societal benefits earlier than those less ambitious plans for the country. Now, reaching 2050 by early action would require about 2.4 billion euros investment per annum on average in the coming 3 decades every year. So it's a massive investment program, as we see today, which adds up to about 2.5–3% of our GDP. So that's what we have to invest into reaching net zero. Now, this investment program could help Hungary to reach climate neutrality, could bring social benefits, and also could help us to reduce our energy import dependence on fossil fuels that we have today. I just indicated also on this slide that, for example, just in 2019, the net energy import bill of Hungary to bring natural gas, oil, and electricity to the country was up to 5 billion euros, and compare it to the 2.4 investment need that could help partly get rid of the country from this huge energy import bill through promoting renewables. From the analysis of the National Clean Development Strategy, essentially, it turns out what should be the green economic development agenda of Hungary for the coming 3 years. And the boxes on this slide just indicate the most important areas for action as we see today. Maybe the first row indicating the most important sectors, economic sectors where we need action. I would like to refer to the fact that what we see today is that the core sector for action, the heart of the whole green energy transition, is the electricity sector, where we might need electrification, so the increase of electricity generation in the capacity, and also to decarbonize this sector as much as possible, because then with clean electricity, we can partly green the transport sectors through electrification, and also we can use clean electricity, decarbonized electricity, to heat our houses instead of natural gas. So electrification and electricity sector decarbonization, greening the transport sector are the two key factors or sectors for action. Beyond that, we see very much of a need for improved energy efficiency. By the way, the average energy intensity of the Hungarian economy is about the double of the EU average, which is very high. So I think there is much room for improvement in that regard, and much room for investment into energy efficiency in the country. Also climate and energy strategy in Hungary really addresses the issue to what extent Hungarian economic development could benefit from that big transition of the energy sector. And I will refer to two new strategies addressing this issue and addressing technologies that might be the future technologies of this transition. The first is the hydrogen strategy that the government just recently adopted, and also a strategy on developing the Hungarian battery industry and the battery value chain. I will come back to some of these issues and points in the coming slides. So let's start with a little bit more detail on where we go with the, let's say, #1 flagship project of green transition in the country, which is the decarbonization of our electricity sector. On the first column here, you can see the current electricity generation mix of the country, indicating with blue nuclear, that we have a nuclear generation company in the country. We still have some lignite-based electricity generation, much natural gas, a little bit of photovoltaic, wind, and biomass, and that makes up our electricity mix. Now, the government decided that in a longer term, the objective is to move from the current mix to what is indicated in the last column, which will still include nuclear. Now, the plan is that by 2040, we will close down our current nuclear plant and build a new one. So, but more or less with the same capacity. As you see, beyond nuclear, the plan is to have large amounts of renewables in the system, mostly photovoltaic, because that's the best resource for Hungary. Then biomass, as well as a little bit of natural gas still to provide flexibility for the system. So that's the plan, to move from the mix from the first column indicated in the last column. And these slides essentially list those major steps and components of this program that should be made in order to reach that objective. The first is to increase the level of decarbonization in the sector from the current about 60% up to 90% by 2030 already, which is very ambitious, which will require the renewal of the nuclear capacity of the country, to phase out the last lignite plant in the country. We have the last one, and we already have a cooperation with the European Union to replace lignite with more environmentally friendly plants at around the Matra power plant. In addition, the objective is to have 6.6 gigawatt of photovoltaic capacity in the system by 2030, and by 2040, the double of that, 12 gigawatt. Keep some gas-based generation as primary backup. In the meantime, upgrade the transmission and the distribution grid. We set up a big program now on reinforcing the grid in the country in order to host those solar capacities that are fast increasing in the country. Also, we need additional flexibility from storage and from other means like demand-side response in the country. We also launched now a massive smart meters program and so on. So these are mostly the major components of this program, keeping nuclear, promoting renewables, promoting grid upgrade, and also to promote flexibility providers into the system. And this slide is to indicate that this is already happening in Hungary. This chart just illustrates the relatively fast growth of installed PV capacity in the country, which was down to 600 megawatt by 2018. And currently it is already over 2.5 gigawatts in the country. And it includes also a commercial scale and household scale installations, household size generation and installations, the number of them already over 120,000 units, and it's still fast increasing. Now the second major flagship beyond electricity sector decarbonization is greening the transportation sector. We have several programs here. First, focusing on reinforcing the Hungarian railway system. Huge amounts of money in the coming EU budgetary period will flow into that area. Beyond that, everything that is related to electric mobility is supported today in the country. This includes grants for purchasing electric cars, but we also have a program to promote the replacement of diesel buses with full electric or zero emission local buses in the country, which is the Green Bus program, and Veronika Erős will elaborate on that program later on with the details. Up to, we have also a support program to promote the purchase of electric bikes in the country. Now we are in the process of framing a program that will address the greening of the heavy trucks sector in the country. We call this as a green truck program, just referring to the green bus program. And I think that will also become a very significant part of of our program to green up the transportation sector in the country. Now, number 3 flagship project is energy efficiency. improving energy efficiency, I already referred to the fact that we are using we are not using our energy resources very efficiently at the moment. Now, reacting on that, from this January, the country started the application of a new energy efficiency obligation scheme, where the largest energy retail companies got an obligation to carry out energy efficiency investments to a certain amount of their historic sales of electricity. 2021 is, I would say, the pilot year for this obligation scheme to take off. But in the coming years, the obligation on those companies is increasing exponentially, which means that to my forecast, there will be fast increasing demand for well done and well audited energy efficiency investments in the country. And we also think of developing transparent white certificate market maybe next year or the year after, so in the coming 2 years, to be launched so that energy efficiency, the sector of energy efficiency indeed develops into transparent, liquid, well-functioning market segment in the country. I just want to let you know that this is an exciting new area, I think, for thinking and action and investment in the coming years in Hungary. Now, number 4 flagship for the green transition of the energy sector is certainly innovation, because as we understood from our long-term study, we need all the current technologies for this transition, plus a lot that we don't know today. And I have to say that that there is a very strong wish, I think, from the side of Hungary to consider this transition as a huge, not just a big challenge for our future generations, but also as a huge opportunity to contribute and take part in innovating those solutions that will help us in getting rid of fossil fuels in the coming 3 decades, essentially. So we started with experimenting with certain solutions. Quite numerous energy innovation projects are underway to promote action to create energy communities, to utilize local renewable resources in the country. We also started to promote projects related to the use of green hydrogen in the future. We also launched energy innovation projects to experiment with different sorts of network-related storage solutions to provide flexibility for the Hungarian electricity sector. So I don't have the time to go very much into detail in that regard, but just want to let you know that from seasonal storage solutions, considering the use of hydrogen as a seasonal storage option, up to short-term storage options and energy efficiency and vehicle-to-grid issues. There's a lot of thinking and move now on to involve local resources, local universities, local researchers into finding solutions in those innovative areas. Okay, I already mentioned that since we consider green transition as an economic development strategy, essentially, we also try to understand which industries are those that are critical for having future technologies in the country and being active in promoting those future technologies. I would just like to take one example, which is the battery industry, and provide you with a little bit of detail on what's going on in that regard in the country. I mean, batteries are critical to support the electrification of the country, and also the decarbonization through massive renewables, the electricity sector. But it's also key to support the transition of the car industry from internal combustions to electric vehicles. And we see a huge potential in this regard for Hungary in the future. Now, according to a recent Bloomberg review, already Hungary is with regard to lithium-ion battery supply chain rankings is relatively high on a global list. Bloomberg ranked us as 12th, being 12th on this list. And indeed, due to investments, mostly of Asian foreign investors in the country, like Samsung and SK Innovation, the fact is that currently Hungary has the largest battery cell production capacity in Europe, which is quite significant, I think. And since 2016, more than 5 billion of FDI arrived to the country and created 4,000 new jobs in the battery industry segment. And there is a forecast that EU cell production will grow 8 to 10 times in the coming few years. So it's this industry is skyrocketing in terms of growth in the EU, but also Hungary. And Hungary would like to stabilize its position in this regard in this case. Now, for that purpose, the government decided to create a separate industry-specific battery industry development strategy for the country. And with the help of our European colleagues, we carried out last year a value chain analysis in that industry, from raw materials up to recycling through, cell production, then pack production, through applications, opportunities in the country, and defined the weaknesses and strengths of Hungary in that regard. And finally, at the end of this September, the government finally approved this new battery industry development strategy with 6 quite clearly defined objectives, which are indicated on this slide, where the point is that we would like to go for creating a sustainable battery industry in the country, and relying as much as possible to local suppliers, so local R&D, and also will invest into creating a skilled workforce for the country. And of course, Hungary would like to offer its capabilities for the entire European battery industry to promote a common European project in that regard, together with the rescheduling and reforming essentially the European car industry in that regard. Here are just some indications on the most important areas where we see opportunities. in this regard, from producing raw materials for batteries like lithium from domestic thermal water resources to the solutions for recycling used batteries. And also we are now working on looking at the opportunities for electricity grid-based batteries and also the e-mobility related battery area. Just note that Hungary is a major car maker currently within the EU, and the car industry is also transforming. BMW will produce only electric cars soon in the country, and we would like to see reinforcing developments in the car industry and the battery industry as a major future technology in this regard in the country. And also new Hungarian Battery Association was formed more recently that already entered into the European Battery Alliance at the end of this September. So this is about one of the key technologies. And hydrogen, as you know and you might know, is the other area where we see a huge opportunity for the future and as part of the green transition, both EU-wide and in Hungary as well. So reacting to that trend, the government also created and also approved a national hydrogen strategy. You can download the English version of this recently published strategy from the homepage indicated on this slide. Now, just to provide you with a taste of the focus of the strategy, you can see the 6, let's say, flagship projects that that strategic document lists and where action is expected, I think, in the coming years in the country and areas where the government, I think, will put domestic and EU support behind the project. So the one is, as you see, the Green Truck program I already referred to, that in terms of transportation greening area, the Green Bus Program Plus, that Veronica will come to this soon. The third flagship project is the establishment of hydrogen valleys in Hungary. Now there are several proposals on the table in that regard already. As flagship 4, we want to get an understanding to what extent the Hungarian natural gas infrastructure can be used in the future to support an economy based much more on green hydrogen, and that's about the hydrogen highway project is about that question. Blue hydrogen in the country, we have good underground storage sites to store CO2 potentially, and with the blue hydrogen projects, we intend to look at how Hungary could better utilize those resources in the future. And of course, a separate chapter on research, development, innovation, knowledge in the country that could better serve the implementation of the strategy. Those are the focus areas of this newly adopted national hydrogen strategy. Now, I think I'm up to my limit of time for speaking, and I would just like to close my presentation with saying that just recently KPMG carried out and published a full report on the so-called net zero readiness of the different countries. That's a global review. And indeed, I and my colleagues, we were very happy to see that in that review, Hungary ended up being number 13 globally on this net zero readiness list. So I would just like to offer into your interest also or attention of this report. Now the rank maybe is not so much important, but at least that review confirms that, and I would just like to send this message that I think Hungary in the recent years has put a lot of effort into understand the opportunities in green transition, and the policy and the government is fairly dedicated to move towards those objectives, invest into green transition, and as much as possible take the economic development opportunities out of this process, which I think opens up large amounts and large potentials for investment, partly in the areas I was referring to, but also in other areas which I did not have the time to talk about. Right, so with this, I would like to thank your attention, and of course, up to the question how we proceed, I am absolutely open to your questions. Thank you.
May I reclaim the host function, Peter?
Yes.
From you? Thank you. I'll let allow to talk. More panelists. I let someone in for the moment. Thank you for your presentation, and obviously we are waiting for questions which might be answered during our session or maybe later by collecting all the answers. But let's go to, I give the role of the host to Attila Csikan, and let me introduce him. Attila Csikan Jr. is the CEO of Alto Group. Among many other positions, he is, as a private man, too, is committed to the principles of sustainability. May I give you the floor, Mr. Csikan, to give your presentation, which title is How Alto Can Help the Electricity Market as well as Industrial Players to Achieve the Zero Carbon Objective.
Thank you, Edith. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good morning to all participants. Thank you for having me today. Actually, what I would like to show you in the next 10 minutes is that how a private company, listed company, can support or help the Hungarian energy strategy and the action plan with its own strategy and with its own activity. Can you see the presentation now? Okay, thank you very much. So actually, which is very important to know is that, of course, having a strategy for each company should consider the whole value chain of its industry or its activity. Alto is doing the same, actually. So we are an integrated energy company, and we are reviewing all the value chain in order to be able to support our partners, which are mainly bigger industrial consumers and municipalities, and of course indirectly to support the Hungarian energy strategy with complex, comprehensive solutions. I think that was one of the main developments of the last couple of years in Hungary and all over the world, actually, is that every identical consumer could have or enabled to have its own energy strategy, which means that that they can make real decisions on its energy mix or its the methodology, the technology, how they fulfill these needs. And it's very important to think over regarding of the different principles like safety of supply or cost efficiency, or of course carbon footprint and emission reduction point of view for each company, to which are the most important elements and how they can formulate a strategy which create, of course, competitive advantage, but also which can fulfill the longer term strategic objectives of the company. So that's something which I would like to emphasize, that each and every players in the market, regardless of being an industrial customer or being a municipality, should have and can have its own energy strategy based on these points which I have just mentioned. So we are following this approach with our activity. We have an energy generation. I will have a slide later on that. Energy services, trading, and in addition to that, e-mobility, which is strongly related to energy. But I would say that this is a startup operation of ours. Generation, services, and trading all together are able to fulfill these requirements. What we have going to details is actually very similar that Hungary have and should have in the future. Not of course nuclear, because nuclear energy is actually not the size of a business of ours, but we have a renewable portfolio, and we also have a natural gas fired portfolio, same as in Hungary. The renewable, I should mention solar first maybe, which is at Alta not the biggest, but for Hungary the most important in the near future. This is also very important that this is not all of our greenfield investments, but industrial customers or municipalities can be supported, as I just mentioned, and can have this kind of individual power production or individual solar production with own power plants based on their own investment, or based on together with us co-investment and long-term power purchase agreements. So these are typically longer-term 10, 15, 20 years contracts, and actually relevant for both cost efficiency of a given company and both the carbon footprint or the emission reduction of a given company. So this is the basis of the future solar investments of our company, but of course we will do greenfield investments also on solar. We are the second biggest wind owner in Hungary. As you may know, that we have in Hungary has a relevant capacity on that. Not yet planned to be broadened. So new capacities won't be built in the next couple of years, but this is still very important. And there are smaller technologies which are also smaller but relevant in our portfolio. So this is the renewable part, and you know, as in Hungary, we also saying that that Alta needs natural gas for a while, for a couple of decades actually. The major role of natural gas regarding the electricity production is actually balancing. This type of power plants are very flexible. Therefore, what we really need in the system, because the renewable energy production or the nuclear energy production is not that flexible, so in order to be balanced, we need this natural gas fired portfolio. So we have a balanced natural gas and renewable portfolio, and that's what we want to build in the future also. We also have services, and of course the services are based on these energy production activity. So from design, project management, through installation and build with EPC contract of power plants, operation, maintenance. So we are actually basically doing everything which is related to produce energy and and to operate power plants. And of course, since we have this balancing capacity with the natural gas-fired power plants, we are also doing services to the national grid, to Mavir. So the balancing power is not just going to internal at Altaos balance circle, but also the national level. And this is very important. It's that important that we have a separate slide on that. This is the control center of ours, which is supplying balancing power to the grid. As you see that we have gas engines there, but this is also very important that we have incorporated renewable on that, 3 wind turbines, which is you can call it funny in a way, because this control center's importance is mainly, as I said, coming from the unflexibility of the renewables. So we have incorporated this power plants, which means that the cause of the problem, we solve the problem partially, which is, I think, a good approach. And we also have power storage, which is something to be built. And as Peter also mentioned, this is strategically important for Hungary and for the Hungarian government, as well as for Altao. And with these assets, we are doing these services to the grid. We have some other services which are important in this manner. I would mention the renewable power management. You know, hundreds of megawatts of solar has been built in the last couple of years, and thousands of megawatts will be built in the next couple of years. But it is very important that these power plants should be operated in a professional manner, which is including forecasting and scheduling, which is not easy. Of course, it's obvious that during daylight it will produce some energy, but to schedule and to limit the cost of the balancing power is a question of knowledge and a question of size of portfolio. So we are incorporating external power plants. Altogether, we have close to 500 megawatts of power plants incorporated into one renewable power management system, which means that we can relevantly reduce the balancing cost of these power plants, which means that they have a better return, which is, of course, supporting Hungarian strategy, because with better return, more investors will invest on these renewable energy systems. And as just wanted to mention e-mobility, which is has several connection of the classic energy services. One which is the most important is that at one of our investments, I've mentioned energy storage. We are not using only industrial scale batteries, but we are also used car batteries. When e-mobility will wider and wider spread in the country and in the region and in Europe, of course, more and more used batteries will be there at the system. And, you know, according to the rules of circular economy, it's very important to incorporate these used batteries instead of being waste. And this usage in the energy industry is a very good solution of that. So my time was a bit limited, so that's all what I have you for today. If you have any questions, then later on I'm ready to answer. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chikan, and I am going to reclaim the role of the host, if you might. Okay. Give it back to me. So, and I'm glad to invite our third speaker, Mrs. Veronika Erős, who is a professional lead of the Hungarian Green Bus program. So with 13 years of experience in the field of the use of renewable energies, rural development, and business development, she is dedicating herself promoting sustainable urban transport. The floor is yours, Mrs. Arias. I give you the host. I make you the host.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ranki. I would like to share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes.
Great. So thank you so much for inviting me for today's program. I'm pretty honored to continue this professional program after Mr. Kaderiak and Mr. Chikan. And what I would like to share with you today at this short presentation is mostly, or first of all, the Hungarian Green Bus program and what we are doing in this program today. I think in the broad contrast, we could learn about the details, the Hungarian aims, strategies in Mr. Kaderiak's presentation. But what we haven't heard of is that this whole green mobility issue and the green mobility development in Hungary, which is part of this chain, what was already introduced, which is a slice of this whole cake, is managed from September this year onwards by the Hungarian Motorsport and Green Mobility Development Agency, which is a background institution of the Ministry for Innovation and Technology. We are based in Budapest, in the capital, but we are trying to concentrate on country level in this very field, the green mobility. We first, with the Green Bus program, we joined the HUMDA in September, and just from the beginning of December, electromobility fields joined also the agency. What we do now at this agency is that we have got the nationwide regulation strategies, which are partly connected to the EU regulations, and of course we have got the own strategies as Hungary, for example, the Climate and Nature Protection Action Plan, or the National Energy Strategy, which are all affecting the mobility in a broad scope. So since from December onwards, here at HUMDA agency, we can focus on as a whole chain from the mobility, from the micro-mobility vehicles and infrastructure needs until the broader and public transport focusing areas like the Green Bus program. We can say that now we can affect this green mobility development issue in a complexity. And why I would like to first put the emphasis on the green bus program and the green and the greening of the public use of vehicles is that first of all the government has already made a decision 2 years ago right now that the green bus program worth that much that first a pilot project should be taken into place to test the electric vehicles that are needed for such a program, and also the infrastructure side of the program. And the other main factor is that for a 10-year long period, the government decided to allocate approximately 100 million euros to fund this whole program. And this is what where I came to the picture in connection with this pilot project, the managing of the pilot project, and developing of the tenders of the Green Bus program. Right now, we are at the stage that we are about to end the Green Bus pilot project in the first quarter of next year, which has two pillars. One of them is the demonstration, the awareness raising part, where we try to promote these vehicles, test them in real environments like living labs, and raise the awareness around this issue. And the other pillar is financing a pilot project, which allocates now approximately 2.2 million euros for the second largest city of Hungary, that is called Debrecen, to purchase electric buses and start the electrification of its local transport. And yeah, I also mentioned the bus tender, but I will get back to that later on. So the objective of the Green Bus program, and so to say the government itself, is that in Hungary approximately 2,900 buses are in place in local cities and towns, above 25,000 inhabitants. And what we see now on the roads here in Hungary, that these vehicles are very polluting ones. They are very old ones, and the government realized in line with the strategies and in line with the climate protection plans that these bus fleets needs to be replaced, because due to this the emission reduction can be reached due to new vehicles on the roads. Most probably people can be raised, the people's awareness can be raised, and they can be pushed towards using public transport vehicles. So it's a complex and a broad program for improving the travel quality, the air quality, and the exchange, the operation quality of public transport in local cities and towns. We see that a lot of actors, stakeholders are involved, have to be involved. I think from Mr. Chikan's presentations, we could see how complex this whole chain can be, and the mobility side, the e-mobility side, is just one part of that. We already, during this 2-year-long period, contacted bus manufacturers and distributors, the relevant infrastructure providers, municipalities, where we have to raise really the awareness for this new technology, and also the citizens who live there, of course, because they are using public transport tools, and of course professional organizations, educational institutions, to carry out a wide program. We started with a pilot project, a demonstration pilot project, where we wanted to present the electric vehicles and the charging methods, infrastructures, to showcase the technology and operational techniques. We earned really interesting results, and we are also carrying out more and more results until the next quarter, the first quarter of 2022. After that, we are going to publish, of course, the results and showcase them. So what I already mentioned, that we have to raise citizens' awareness and their awareness towards their environment, and also towards the climate in a broader scope. Then, of course, we considered it very important to inform those stakeholders that I already mentioned, the citizens, the public service providers, professionals, decision makers, and e-mobility stakeholders about the details and what is necessary in a holistic way to operate successfully such an electric public transport system. We have had a lot of tests with the charging systems, and we still continue this activity until approximately March 2022. And of course, we provided the bus manufacturers and the stakeholders who are displaying their electric vehicles to promote the vehicles and their brands. We made it in a clear competition. So those those bus manufacturers and suppliers, distributors who wanted to join the program could step in at the very beginning of this demonstration pilot project, and yeah, they took the chance to be tested, even bearing in mind that probably they don't get at all the time the best results in connection with their vehicles. We have had so far a lot of demonstrations, which all started which all took for a month time period at a city or a town here in Hungary. So far, we have tested 7 types of solo buses, and right now an articulated electric bus is being tested at 4 venues here in Hungary. As you see, the demonstrations started in September 2020, and as you see on the slide, we try to test the buses in different geographical areas, in different environments, in different temperatures, in different seasons, to test them deeply, how they react to the environmental effects and issues. What we experienced so far is that a lot of kilograms of carbon dioxide were saved only due to the demonstration program. But of course, what is more important for us to examine and to see is that how many costs can be saved comparing an electric bus to a diesel one, how many or how much noise can be saved by using an electric vehicle instead of a diesel counterpart. And yeah, we try to earn as much experience and information as we could. It is also very important that we had to examine, for example, the daily routes of an electric bus, where we examined that approximately 200 kilometers in average, a bus could ride the roads with one charge during the night. And as I mentioned, we are still working on demonstrations. You can just see the upcoming, or just now, for example, in Dunakeszi, we have got a demonstration going on, but we will have still some more demonstrations until the first quarter of until the end of the first quarter of next year. So that's about the demonstration phase. Of course, those experiences, informations, results that we earn are being implemented in the Green Bus program, the tender side, the 10-year-long program of greening the public transport in local spaces. And I can tell you that we have already carried out one tendering. We opened a call for proposals approximately a year ago. And until the end of this May, 11 applications were submitted for the first call for proposal of the Green Bus program, where all 11 applicants actually won the grants. Altogether, 123 electric buses and 4 self-propelled trolley buses can be purchased and put in place with the subsidy of the Green Bus program until the end of next year. To these electric vehicles, more than 100 e-chargers will be put in place as well, which are all more than 100 kilowatt kilowatt chargers. So the issue with the infrastructure side is really critical, and in the next phase of the Green Bus program, we are going to be put more effort on the managing side of the needs of these electric vehicles. A total amount of more than 70 million euros that we are speaking about, and to that more than 50 million euros were given as a subsidy. If we see the numbers, we see that we don't give 100% non-refundable fund for this new initiative, since we do think that if we compare the operation costs of the diesel and old fleets to the newer and electric ones, we can speak about reduction of operating costs, and that's why we do think that maximum 80% intensity can be given to such new projects. And among these 123 electric bus procurements, we could already have the first result, because 40 electric buses arrived to Volambus PLC, which is Hungary's biggest bus fleet operator. And they are already in operation. They are carrying out now awareness raising activities here in Budapest, and they are going to be placed in the suburbs areas of Budapest in the next quarter in 2022. What we have for the future is that, of course, as an EU member country, we have to take into consideration the implementation of the Clean Vehicle Directive, which has got numbers, percentages for electric vehicle procurements. This is what we are going to implement and take into consideration when planning the next call for proposal for the Green Bus tender. And what we now see that from EU co-funding, on one hand from the Recovery and Resilience Facility, and on the other hand from Cohesion Fund, we are going to extend, or most probably going to extend the money, the subsidizing money for the Green Bus program available for the next 10 years. Yes, and just in a nutshell, we at HUMDA are building a kind of competence center for mobility development. On one hand, we are coordinating these mobility development tools, but we would like to go more into the details and earn as much results and information to drive them back to these facilities, these financial facilities as possible. And I do think that also, for example, the education and awareness raising side, the energy management side they are also very important for a successful and effective program to be carried out. So thank you for the attention. I hope I could let you useful information, and feel free to ask or later on get back to us, and we are happy to collaborate, answer your questions, and share information, for example, about the demonstration project as well.
Thank you very much, Veronica, very much. We have run a little bit out of time, and what I would suggest now for the Q&A session is that if you are having some question to be answered, we are ready to collect it, and please feel to send it to us. And then we try to get the answers and forward it to you. Let me at the last, we know that it's already late, and we do not have too much time to save our planet. But I am convinced that with these presentations, we could get closer to solutions. Last but not least, I would like to thank our speakers for having presented this valuable information, and thanks for all of you who took time to participate. Keep in touch, wishing you a soon approaching wonderful holiday season. Keep safe, and the best of luck to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
It's very useful.
Happy holidays, all the best.
Thank you. Very happy holidays to all of you.
Nice holidays.
Bye-bye.
Yes. All the best to you.
All the best.
Thank you. Take care.